Hello everyone, welcome back. We are here with a review of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Now this is, a remake slash remaster of the original PSP game that came out in 2008, at least here in North America. And let's say they did quite a bit of stuff to it. Not only did this game receive a visual overhaul, but there's also been some gameplay adjustments and some reworked audio, and this is actually a great product. I enjoyed my time with this game. Despite not knowing too much about the Final Fantasy VII lore, but being very interested with it after playing the original one on PlayStation and going through Remake, Crisis Core helped fill in a few tidbits of information, and it was also fun to see classic characters from the mainline games here and see how things connect. In terms of the story itself, you play as Zack Fair. He was a character you met in some sequences during the original Final Fantasy VII and in Remake. But this explains everything for Zack from before all of that. It takes place 7 years. Yes, it uses that number 7. It takes place 7 years before the events of Final Fantasy VII. So you basically see Zack's rise from being second-class soldier all the way up to the end. Which that's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to spoil too much of like the story of his experience, but it basically starts off, as I said, with Zack starting off in second-class soldier and then trying to go after a soldier defect named Genesis. In terms of the story itself, it might be a little bit confusing or just maybe a little bit all over the place sometimes, but I felt like the story was well done. As I said, it was fun to see a lot of classic characters from the original Final Fantasy VII here and have Zack interact with them. But for what this is, I feel like it's good. I enjoyed my time with it and just getting those little tidbits of information. Where this game actually differs from the original Final Fantasy VII, I'm talking the PlayStation 1 version here, is in terms of combat. Because if you remember how those that game played, it was turn-based RPG. Crisis Core is more action-focused. And the action's actually pretty well done. They seem to have taken some stuff from Remake and incorporated it in here as well. Like, one of the changes actually going from the PSP version into this new version is the ability to use the Buster Sword. So you can actually use a Buster Sword stance. I thought that was cool. I enjoyed using that in 7 Remake. So it was good to see that here. Other changes include, in terms of like combat and stuff, like they've changed how you can use difficulty. So like difficulty, like you only had one and it was locked. You can change difficulty on the fly now with it. Another interesting thing is that if you fail a mission or you fail in combat, when you restart, you actually have the ability to change your equipment and your materia. So you can make like up to 5 sets of them, each with their own different parameters, like use different materia for these things for this set and then have it level up in the DMW, which we'll get to that soon. Or you can even just restart it just directly from that point, which is actually pretty cool. But speaking of the DMW, that's actually one of the big things when it comes to combat, which is something I like, but it's also something I despise a little bit. The DMW is short for the Digital Mind Wave. When I first saw it, I almost thought it was DMV, Digital Mind Video or something. But no, it's the DMW, the Digital Mind Wave. So it's basically this little roulette system that happens in the upper left corner of the screen. So it'll randomly cycle through, say, characters and a number system. So there's portraits and then there's numbers. So how it works is, depending on where it lands, at least in terms of portraits, they can activate something called limit breaks with characters. So you could do something for, say, Octaslash with, say, Sephiroth, or even Rush Assaults with Angeal, but the DMW also is used for summons. So one of the first summons you get in the game, Ifrit or Ifrit, as it's pronounced in Final Fantasy 16. You can get summons through the digital mind wave as well, but it has to switch over to that stance. And then same thing with other buffs, like say for chocobos, or Moogles, which are still cute. I'm not too big on the design of the Moogles here, but I do like that they incorporate them into the DMW. So that's just with portraits, but they also, depending on the portrait, you can also get like a level of 1 to 5 for the damage, depending on where it lands. But on top of the portraits, there's also numbers, so it goes through 1 through 7 again, keeping with the theme of the number 7. But depending on what numbers you get, can also have different effects as well. So, for example, some of them could be no MP costs, one of them could be no AP costs, another one is a combination of both. But you could also get things where you can get critical attacks. You can also that's also used to level up your materia as well as leveling up Zack. The one reason why I despise it is because it's just super random, but I know that's how the design of it works. But I've never found it to actually screw you over or make you lose battles. Because that's what I thought could happen, where it's just like if you get a weird number combination and it's just like, no, we're going to debuff you, or we're gonna downgrade you a level or something like that. I'm glad it doesn't do that. One interesting thing though that I forgot to mention with the DMW, and this is also a change from the PSP version, is that when you get access to, say, the limit breaks and stuff, it normally would use them immediately, but in this one you can stock it. So when you get a limit break, or even say a summon, for instance, you have to like press a button, or in the case of the summons, click on the sticks to make them go into effect, and you get this neat little cinematic of, say, Zack doing the animations for the attack, or you're seeing a nice video summon for, say, Ifrit or any of the other ones in the game. Now, one other change, at least when it comes to summons, is that apparently in the PSP one, they took about a minute to play their cutscenes. That's now been shortened to like 20 seconds, which keeps the flow of combat going fast. And that's actually the big thing with combat. I feel it actually moves at a very good pace, and I just love it. It's fun. Because I did enjoy combat in Remake, and here it just feels like that too. So I'm glad to see combat work itself out well. Now, you also still have access to using your materias as well, whether it would be for magic or even for special physical attacks. But you can also use them for buffs, so increasing your HP, your magic points, your action points, or vitality, and all that. And the fact that they give you 5 sets for it opens up strategies and opens up options, which I appreciate that. One issue though is that I mostly just used one or two with it, but if you want to experiment with it, the options are there. And then, as I said, if you do fail in combat, you can switch back to any of the one set you've made, or you can just make a complete set on your own. Another thing with materias is that you can also fuse those. Now when you level up materias, they are up to level 5. So there's a max level 5, and when you have one maxed out, it'll give you the letter M right beside the materia that you've done, and you can fuse those with other materias, and then later on you can also fuse those with items that not only can, say, depending on your combinations, you can make a newer advanced version of, say, the material you want to do, or you can make just new ones in general. So there are possibilities, there's lots of options when it comes to it. I know I didn't discover all of them, but I do like the idea of that system. And I feel like that opens up a lot of replayability when it comes to that. It's something I want to go back to and experiment with a bit more. Now, in terms of this game itself, as I said, it is like a remake slash remaster with it. So in terms of presentation, that's been the biggest change with it. So you're this game has moved over to Unreal Engine 4, and let's just say it actually looks really nice. The models have all been updated, and they've used majority of the ones, at least from remake, into this game. Obviously, some that weren't in there have been redesigned. One of my favorite models, and like actually one of my favorite characters in the game, is Cisne. So shout out for that character, just because I do hope we get to see more of her in the future, but I feel like the chances of that are kind of slim. But again, cross fingers, hope for the best. But no, model wise, the models look good. One weird thing, and you can tell that this is definitely from like a handheld aspect, like from that PSP, is that I feel animations are a bit stiff when in cutscenes. They seem very, yeah, kind of robotic a little bit, but I think that's the only time you could tell that this was a handheld game. But other than the models themselves, the environments look good. They have seen updates. Loading is fast. The levels are small, but again, like I said, the loading is fast to make up for that stuff. For this one though, I was playing the Xbox Series X version of Crisis Core, and I didn't notice any problems. The game pretty much ran locked at 60 frames per second and runs at native 4K. But if you want to go for higher frame rates, that's where the PC version comes into play as well. In terms of that, in terms of other changes with it, like voiceovers, they've added voice acting pretty much for everything in the game, including the stuff that was just for text in the original game. So now all of that is voiced over. Full motion videos have been updated, which seems to look like AI upscaling, and I feel like those are relatively good. The summons seem to have been redone though, and I like the looks of those. I hope we get to see some of those when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth when that comes out. Other things include the ending cutscene, the epilogue cutscene, but I'm not going to talk about that here. But I'd say overall, in terms of presentation, in terms of audio, like they hit it out of the park. They did a good job with it. The music rework is actually very well done. I do really like the boss theme in this game. The boss themes, at least when you're fighting summons, those were good. And it's nice to see some nods to the original Final Fantasy VII in terms of some of its tracks. But go through that. I do like the music in this game, and again, props to them updating this. Overall, I would say Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion was a fun game. It is a short ride, at least from other Final Fantasy games, but I feel like it's paced pretty well. It's paced pretty well. It's a lot of fun. The side missions in there, like if you do all of them, they will keep you busy for a long time, and you'll actually want to do some of them because some of them are tied to gameplay, at least to unlock some things when it comes to your equipment and your materia. And you're not going to get all the summons in one playthrough. You have to do some of the missions for that, along with a couple of other surprises. But overall, like I said, I enjoy this game. It's a lot of fun. It was good to see Zack's story and also see returning faces. If you haven't played this game and you liked Remake, I think you'll appreciate what Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion has to offer. Even if you've never played a Final Fantasy game before and you don't have all that time to dedicate to, say, a mainline installment, this one would be a good little bite-sized chunk to go play through. And like I said, it's available on the current platforms, so there are ways to get it. Thankfully, you don't have to go with that PSP game anymore. We have modern platforms for it now. But play it. I think you'll enjoy it. With that, I have to give a big shout out and thank you to Square Enix for providing me a copy of this game, again, for the Xbox Series, for the Xbox Series X. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to give you guys these thoughts and share this experience with you. So again, big shout out and thank you to you guys over at Square Enix for taking a chance on me. I appreciate it a lot. As for all of you, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll hopefully be doing more of these for you soon. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like the video and also subscribe to the channel. But again, thank you all. Your support means a lot, and hopefully this video found you well. Until next time, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.
Let's go.